What if I told you the most powerful business strategy ever invented wasn't created by Amazon, Google, or Apple? It was created by one man in 1863, and you are living inside it right now. His name was John D. Rockefeller. And before we talk about corporations, monopolies, or trillion-dollar companies, you need to understand who this man actually was. Because his psychology matters as much as his strategy. His father was a traveling con artist. Literally, he sold fake cancer cures door to door and disappeared for months at a time. His mother was a deeply religious Baptist who taught her son that discipline, patience, and God's will were the pillars of a righteous life. Most people would call that a broken childhood. Rockefeller called it a masterclass. From his father, he absorbed something dangerous, the ability to see what people needed and sell them something else. From his mother, he inherited an unshakable belief that whatever he did, God approved. That combination, ruthlessness wrapped in moral certainty, is what made him unstoppable. When oil was discovered in Pennsylvania in 1859, thousands of men rushed in to drill. It was a gold rush, chaotic, volatile. Fortunes made on Monday, gone by Friday. 20-year-old Rockefeller watched all of it and made a quiet decision. He wasn't going to drill. He was going to refine, because anyone can pull something out of the ground. But the person who processes it, packages it, and delivers it, that person controls everything. In 1863, he invested $4,000 into his first Cleveland refinery. Within 2 years, largest in the city. And Cleveland had 30 refineries. Rockefeller had one. But he already saw the endgame nobody else could. Here's the idea that changed everything. Most refinery owners thought their job was refining oil. Rockefeller realized their job was actually something much bigger. He asked one question nobody else was asking. Why am I paying someone else for every single step of this process? Why pay a barrel maker for barrels? Buy the factory. Why pay railroads to ship oil? Buy the tank cars. Negotiate secret deals. Make the railroads pay you to use them, and charge your competitors more. Why pay distributors? Build your own. This is vertical integration. Control the entire chain, from raw material to customers' hands. While competitors were fighting for thin margins at one stage of the process, Rockefeller owned every stage. He could sell kerosene below cost and still profit. His competitors? They were bleeding out and didn't even understand why. By 1870, he officially incorporated Standard Oil of Ohio. He controlled 4% of American refining. That wasn't enough. What happened next is one of the most calculated power grabs in American history. In 1872, Rockefeller walked into Cleveland's refinery district with a simple offer. Sell to me, or I will destroy you. He didn't say it that bluntly, of course. He was always polite, always reasonable. He explained that the industry was inefficient, that cooperation was better than competition, that he was doing them a favor. If they agreed, fair price. Sometimes even a management role. If they refused, he declared war. He dropped kerosene prices below what they could survive. His secret railroad rebates meant his shipping cost a fraction of theirs. They lost money on every sale. Every single day they stayed open, they fell deeper into ruin. In 3 months, Rockefeller had bought or bankrupted 25 out of 26 Cleveland refineries. Historians call it the Cleveland Massacre. That name is not an exaggeration. He then took the same playbook to New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Buy, destroy, absorb, repeat. By 1879, less than a decade after starting, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's refining capacity. Not 51%, not 70%, 90%. That's not competition. That's a different thing entirely. Here's where most people think the story ends. Government steps in, monopoly gets broken, good wins. But Rockefeller was already 3 moves ahead. He understood something that most businessmen didn't. Visible power attracts enemies. Structural power is invisible. So he invented a new legal structure, the trust. It worked like this. Standard Oil of Ohio couldn't legally own companies in other states, but a trust could. A group of shareholders, Rockefeller and his inner circle, held stock in all Standard Oil companies. The trust controlled the companies. The companies controlled the market. One man, 41 shareholders, 90% of American oil. And here's the thing. This trust structure didn't just protect Rockefeller. It became the blueprint for modern corporate America. The parent company that owns subsidiaries. Alphabet owns Google. Meta owns Instagram and WhatsApp. Berkshire Hathaway owns hundreds of companies. Every single one is a descendant of Rockefeller's 1882 invention. In 1906, a journalist named Ida Tarbell published an investigation that shook America. She spent years documenting the secret railroad deals, the predatory pricing, the deliberate destruction of competitors. The public erupted. In 1911, the Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil to be broken into 34 separate companies. America celebrated. The monster was dead. Except, Rockefeller still owned shares in all 34 companies. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Standard Oil of Ohio was eventually absorbed by BP. Before the breakup, Standard Oil stock traded around $600 per share. After the breakup, the combined value of all 34 companies exceeded $2,000 per share. John D. Rockefeller's net worth tripled the year the government destroyed his monopoly. Let that sink in. And over the following century, those 34 companies quietly merged back together. Exxon and Mobil reunited in 1999. Chevron absorbed multiple Standard siblings. BP swallowed the rest. The monopoly that was broken up in 1911 has essentially reconstituted itself. The system didn't die, it just rested. Now here's where this stops being history and starts being your life. Every dominant company you interact with daily is using the exact same playbook. Amazon started selling books, now owns the warehouses, the delivery trucks, the logistics network, the payment system, and the cloud infrastructure that hosts its competitors' websites. AWS alone generates $90 billion a year, more than Amazon's entire retail operation. Rockefeller controlled oil refining, railroads, and distribution. Amazon controls retail, logistics, and cloud computing. Different century, identical architecture. And when Amazon can't buy a competitor, it watches them. Third-party sellers on Amazon's marketplace feed their sales data directly to Amazon. Amazon studies that data, identifies what's selling, creates a cheaper Amazon Basics version, then promotes it above the original seller. Rockefeller's price war, now conducted through an algorithm. Google controls 92% of global search. That's higher than Standard Oil's peak monopoly. But because the product appears free, regulators struggle to classify it as a monopoly. You don't pay with money, you pay with data, attention, and behavior. Rockefeller would have called this elegant. Meta owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. When Instagram began threatening Facebook, Zuckerberg didn't compete. He bought it for $1 billion. When WhatsApp threatened both, he bought it for $19 billion. This is horizontal consolidation. Cleveland Massacre. Different names, same move. Pharmaceutical companies use Rockefeller's regulatory capture, shaping the very rules they're supposed to follow. They fund regulatory bodies through fees. They draft the legislation, they write the standards. Control the regulator, and you control the market. Rockefeller perfected this in the 1880s. It's called lobbying now. And then there's the final piece, the one that turns a villain into a hero. In 1913, Rockefeller donated $250 million, over $7 billion in today's money, to create the Rockefeller Foundation. Medical research, education, public health. The headlines called it generosity, but look at what it actually did. The foundation decided which universities received funding, which meant it decided what was taught and what was researched. It helped establish the model for American medical education, one that centered pharmaceutical treatment over all other approaches. And the pharmaceutical industry, much of it descended from Standard Oil's chemical divisions, profited massively from that model. Simultaneously, The foundation shielded enormous wealth from estate taxes. It built Rockefeller's public image from most hated man in America to beloved philanthropist. It extended his influence decades beyond his ability to run a company. The man who crushed thousands of small business owners became the face of generosity. Today, every billionaire follows this script. Gates Foundation, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, Buffett's pledges. These aren't just charity. They're tax architecture, legacy construction, and policy influence. Rockefeller didn't just invent the philanthropist billionaire. He invented the manual. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot easily opt out of this system. The gasoline in your car flows through Exxon or Chevron Standard Oil descendants. The packages at your door move through Amazon's vertical empire. Your Google search runs through a trust structure modeled on Standard Oil. Your prescription drugs were shaped by a medical system the Rockefeller Foundation designed. Your bank operates inside holding company structures Rockefeller's lawyers invented in 1882. The average American sends roughly $13,000 per year to companies built on this exact playbook. Over a lifetime, that's over $500,000, flowing upward, concentrating at the top, exactly as the system was designed to do. This isn't a conspiracy theory. There's no shadowy meeting, no secret society. It's structure.legal, documented, accepted. This system is invisible because it became the water we swim in. We call it the economy. We call it the market. We call it just how things work. But it has an architect, and it has a blueprint. Here's what separates Rockefeller from every other powerful figure of his era. Carnegie built steel mills. They outlived him, but his control didn't. Vanderbilt built railroads. His empire fragmented after he died. Morgan built financial power. It faded without him. But Rockefeller built a method. And methods don't need their creator to survive. Vertical integration. Horizontal consolidation, legal structures that concentrate control, regulatory capture, philanthropy as legitimacy. Each piece was copied, refined, embedded into corporate law, written into tax code, normalized into business school curricula. Rockefeller died in 1937 at age 97. His system has only gotten stronger. The question isn't whether you live inside it. You do. The question is, now that you can see it, what do you do with that knowledge? Because awareness is the one thing the system never accounted for. See the architecture, then decide how you build.